Tylenol's iconic status as a trusted household remedy was shattered not once, but multiple times. First by the infamous 1982 cyanide tampering murders, and now by lawsuits linking it to neurodevelopmental harm and liver toxicity. But Tylenol is far from alone. The pain relief aisle, once assumed safe, has become a zone of growing concern. From topical sprays laced with benzene to antidepressants like Zymbalta contaminated with nitrosamines. If you're tired of being lied to, if you're ready to expose the truth they don't want you to know, then don't just watch. Join this fight. Hit subscribe right now so you never miss the facts the corporations hope you'll ignore. Every new video pulls back the curtain a little more, and together we're building a movement they can't silence. Subscribe, stay informed, and let's take back control, one truth at a time. These aren't obscure side effects. They're lethal, cancer-causing chemicals showing up in over-the-counter drugs without consumers ever knowing. The recalls may come late, but the consequences don't wait. These aren't isolated incidents. They're symptoms of a larger failure in how medications are made, monitored, and marketed. Trusted products are hiding dangerous flaws due to manufacturing errors, lax regulation, and outright corporate negligence. With names like Vioxx, B Extra, and Tylenol already scarred by scandal, the pharmaceutical industry's pattern of putting profits above safety is unmistakable. This investigation reveals how deeply broken the system is, and why the burden of vigilance now rests on the very people these drugs are supposed to protect. 7 widely used painkillers, products millions of people rely on every single day, have been pulled from shelves after testing revealed contamination with known carcinogens. These are not obscure foreign medications. These are over-the-counter products, antidepressants, and common household pain relievers. And the chemicals discovered in them, benzene and nitrosamines, aren't just concerning. They are proven to cause cancer. The scope of this recall reveals a massive failure not just in manufacturing but in oversight, regulation, and corporate responsibility. Let's start with the basics. Painkillers, sprays, antidepressants, acetaminophen. These are staples in the average medicine cabinet. We take them to feel better, but now evidence shows they might have been silently making people sicker, causing cancer, heart attacks, strokes, and severe neurological problems. This isn't about a one-off mistake, it's about systemic negligence. The most shocking example? A benzocaine spray produced by Insight Pharmaceuticals. This spray, marketed for minor pain relief, was found to contain benzene, a chemical linked to leukemia and other deadly disorders. The kicker? Benzene wasn't even listed on the label. It got into the product through the propellant gas, the stuff used to spray it out of the can. In other words, the delivery system, the part you don't even think about, was poisoning people. And yet this wasn't caught in early testing. It took consumer exposure and third-party testing to spark the recall. That's not an accident. That's failure. Failure to monitor the supply chain. Failure to test thoroughly. Failure to protect the public. And it doesn't end there. Duloxetine, sold under the brand name Zymbalta, is an antidepressant used by hundreds of thousands of people. It was recalled after tests found dangerous levels of nitrosamines. These compounds don't just sound scary, they are. They're among the most potent carcinogens known to science, capable of causing gene mutations and triggering multiple forms of cancer. And yet these impurities weren't caught until after bottles had been distributed and consumed. One recall led to another, and soon, hundreds of thousands of bottles were pulled from the market. But how many people were exposed before anyone said a word? This isn't just a manufacturing mistake, it's a symptom of a pharmaceutical system that has gotten far too comfortable with cutting corners. And we've seen it before. Vioxx was once hailed as a miracle NSAID. That miracle ended in tragedy. After being approved and heavily marketed, Vioxx was linked to an increased risk of heart attacks and strokes, especially in long-term users. Internal documents later revealed the manufacturer, Merck, knew about these risks, but chose to suppress the data. The result? An estimated 60,000 deaths. The fallout was catastrophic, billions in legal settlements, public outrage, and yet the industry didn't learn its lesson. Fast forward, and the same patterns are repeating. Let's talk about Tylenol. Yes, Tylenol, the brand everyone knows, the one parents reach for first. It's had its share of disasters. Back in 1982, cyanide-laced capsules killed 7 people and sparked a nationwide panic. That tragedy led to tamper-proof packaging reforms, but Tylenol's problems didn't stop there. Today, it's facing lawsuits over neurodevelopmental damage linked to use during pregnancy, and that's in addition to its well-known connection to liver toxicity. Acetaminophen overdoses remain one of the leading causes of acute liver failure. Despite this, it remains a go-to remedy, trusted blindly by consumers who are rarely told the full story. Then there are pain relief patches, marketed as a safer alternative to pills. These patches have been subject to recall after recall. The issues: everything from excessive lidocaine absorption to poor adhesion that renders the product useless or dangerous. Lidocaine overdose can cause heart rhythm disturbances, seizures, and in extreme cases, death. These are products that require exact dosing and stable manufacturing, yet companies continue to push them to market with lax standards, and people pay the price. What ties all of these scandals together? Corporate greed and regulatory complacency. The pharmaceutical industry, dominated by multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, has shown time and again that it will prioritize profits over people. From Vioxx to Tylenol to Be Extra, these companies have been caught hiding side effects, manipulating trial data, and promoting off-label uses that were never tested or approved. The government agencies meant to protect us, the FDA included, are too often asleep at the wheel. Recalls are reactive, not proactive. Inspections miss glaring flaws. Contamination is discovered after the damage is done. And while executives cash their bonuses, patients suffer and die. Let's be clear, these aren't fringe products. These are everyday items. Sprays, patches, NSAIDs, antidepressants, and acetaminophen. They're sold in every pharmacy, trusted by families, taken by people who believe what the box says. The presence of benzene and nitrosamines in these products wasn't a freak occurrence. It's the result of flawed manufacturing, sloppy storage, and broken quality control systems. These chemical contaminants don't appear out of nowhere. They form during drug synthesis, when raw materials are impure, or when production conditions aren't properly controlled. They also emerge during storage, especially if the temperature or humidity fluctuates. That's not just a technicality, it's a death sentence for the people exposed to these toxins. And here's what's most disturbing: consumers aren't told. The presence of these cancer-causing agents is often discovered long after the medications have been sold and used. That's not just unethical, it's criminal. Despite billions in fines and settlements, these companies continue to operate without meaningful reform, because fines are just the cost of doing business. Lawsuits, for them, are part of the financial forecast, and with weak regulatory enforcement, they know they'll get away with it. Again and again, the system is broken, but that doesn't mean you're helpless. There are safer alternatives, certain NSAIDs that haven't been subject to contamination, non-toxic topical treatments, antidepressants that meet modern safety standards, but you have to stay informed. Follow recall alerts, ask your pharmacist questions, research the brands you trust, don't assume over-the-counter means safe, and never rely on corporate marketing to tell you the truth about a product's risks. Consult your healthcare provider before changing any medications. That decision must be made with medical guidance, not panic. But the awareness has to start somewhere, and it starts here. The truth is this: the pharmaceutical industry has a pattern: hide the dangers, push the product, settle the lawsuits, repeat, and unless the public demands better, nothing will change. Transparency must be non-negotiable. Regulatory oversight must be enforced, not just recommended. And accountability must be real, not just a press release and a fine. The fact that known carcinogens have been found in household medications should shake everyone awake. This isn't fear-mongering, it's documented reality. People have developed cancer, suffered heart attacks, experienced neurological damage, all because corporations didn't care enough to ensure their products were clean and safe. If you found this information disturbing, you're not alone. Share this video with your friends and family. Someone you know may still be using a contaminated product. Like this video so more people are alerted to this ongoing threat. Comment below if you've been impacted, or if you want to know more about how to stay informed. And most importantly, subscribe. We're not going to stop calling out corporate misconduct and regulatory failure, because public health deserves better. You deserve better. And remember, before making any changes to your prescriptions or medications, always consult your medical professional. Let's dig deeper, because this rabbit hole only gets darker. We've already covered benzene in benzocaine sprays and nitrosamines in antidepressants, but what makes this even more alarming is how routine and avoidable these contaminations should have been. These are substances we've known about for decades. Benzene has been classified as a Group 1 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. That's the highest level. And nitrosamine, they've been linked to gene mutations and several types of cancer in both animals and humans. So how did they end up in your medicine cabinet? Because no one was paying enough attention, or worse, they were, and they just didn't care. When manufacturing shortcuts become standard practice, you get what we're seeing now: mass recalls, broken trust, and irreversible damage to people's health. And it's not like this happened overnight. These failures have been building, batch after batch, shipment after shipment, in facilities where safety takes a backseat to speed and cost cutting. And it's not just the chemicals, it's what they represent. Every tainted bottle, every recalled product, is a signal that someone along the line, an executive, a plant manager, a government inspector, looked the other way. Let's talk about those pain relief patches again. The marketing sells them as the perfect alternative for people who don't want pills. Targeted relief, fewer side effects, but those promises collapsed the moment quality control slips. And slip, it did. Some patches were found to deliver too much lidocaine. Others didn't stick to the skin properly, leaving patients with inconsistent doses or no pain relief at all. And when lidocaine levels spike, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a life-threatening emergency. Heart rhythm issues, seizures, hospital visits. One mistake in the patch's chemistry, and the consequences can be lethal. But guess what? Those products stayed on shelves long after complaints started rolling in. The recalls weren't preemptive, they were reactive, meaning someone had to get hurt before action was taken. Sound familiar? It's the same with Tylenol's checkered past. Yes, the 1982 cyanide tampering changed packaging forever, but that was a crime, not a manufacturing defect. What's more troubling is what's happened since. Today, Tylenol faces lawsuits over claims that use during pregnancy may be linked to neurodevelopmental issues like autism and ADHD. Combine that with acetaminophen's long documented connection to liver damage, and suddenly this safe and trusted brand doesn't look so safe anymore. Yet it's still marketed as the default choice, still handed out without second thought, still trusted because people aren't being told the whole truth. And why would they be? Big Pharma spends billions every year to shape public perception through ads, through PR, through carefully curated messaging that downplays risk while maximizing market share. Now let's pull back and look at the regulatory side. You'd think with the FDA and other oversight bodies in place, these kinds of disasters wouldn't be possible. But they are, over and over again, because the system isn't built to prevent harm, it's built to respond after it happens. That means people are essentially being used as guinea pigs, taking contaminated or unsafe medications until something goes wrong enough times for the alarm bells to finally sound. The contamination with benzene and nitrosamines isn't just a blip, it's a glaring red flag, a warning that the system is reactive, not proactive, and we're all paying the price. This should be a wake-up call for every consumer, because it's not just about one product or one company, it's about a pharmaceutical culture that treats risk as an acceptable cost of doing business. Look at the Vioxx scandal again. This was a drug that was supposed to revolutionize arthritis treatment. Instead, it caused thousands of deaths. Why? Because Merck knew the risks and suppressed the data. They manipulated clinical trials, they silenced critics, and they marketed the drug anyway. That wasn't just corporate arrogance, that was corporate murder, and they paid billions in settlements because of it. But here's the part no one likes to talk about. Merck made billions more before they got caught. So what incentive is there to play by the rules? That's the problem. The industry is structured to reward speed, efficiency, and profit, not safety. And when oversight bodies are underfunded, outgunned, or politically compromised, the consequences are exactly what we're seeing now. Toxic drugs slipping through the cracks, into your home, and into your body. What's even more terrifying is how little consumers know. Most people assume if it's on the shelf, It must be safe. But that's simply not true. These recalls prove it. Everyday medications can harbor hidden dangers, carcinogens, liver toxins, neurological risks, all wrapped up in colorful packaging, stamped with brand logos, and delivered with a smile. And the pharmaceutical giants, they hide behind technical language and PR statements, while quietly pulling tainted products off the market. Minimal accountability. No jail time, no real consequences, beyond fines they can easily afford. They'll say, we're cooperating with regulators, we're investigating the source, we take consumer safety seriously. But if they really took it seriously, these problems wouldn't exist in the first place. Because here's the truth, safer manufacturing methods exist, better oversight is possible, transparent labeling should be mandatory, but none of that happens unless the public demands it. That's where you come in. Don't wait for another recall to start questioning the pills in your cabinet. Don't assume the pharmacy has your back. Don't trust a brand just because it's been around forever. Start reading recall alerts. Start questioning where your medications come from. Start asking your doctor about safer alternatives. And above all, stay vigilant, because once trust is broken in medicine, rebuilding it requires more than promises. It requires proof. It requires accountability. And it requires constant pressure from people like you who refuse to accept anything less than real safety. And one more thing before you make any changes to your medications or treatments, talk to your doctor. Medical decisions should always be made in consultation with professionals who know your personal health history. We've covered the names, we've covered the chemicals, but let's be brutally honest. This is about more than tainted pills or sprays. This is about a broken system that keeps putting you and your family in harm's way, over and over, and each time they expect you to forget, to forgive, to move on like nothing happened. But why should you? Why should anyone trust a pharmaceutical industry that let cancer-causing agents slip into painkillers? Let's not downplay it. Benzene and nitrosamines are not just concerning, they're deadly. They alter your DNA. They trigger long-term irreversible health damage, leukemia, liver cancer, stomach cancer, and the most sinister part, you'd never know it was happening, because the very products causing the damage are the ones marketed to make you feel better. Think about that. This isn't about overdosing or misuse. These are people who use these products as directed and ended up with exposure to chemicals that have no business being anywhere near a medication. That's the betrayal. It's not just contamination, it's corporate negligence disguised as healthcare. And it's not some one-off scandal, it's a pattern. First it was Vioxx, touted as a miracle, NSAID, only to be yanked off the market after tens of thousands of deaths. Not complications, not rare side effects, deaths. And Merck, they knew. Internal emails, trial data manipulation, misleading marketing, it was all there. They let it happen anyway. Then it was Tylenol, after lawsuits linked it to liver toxicity and possible neurodevelopmental harm during pregnancy. Add in the 1982 cyanide poisoning crisis, and you've got a product that's been living off branding, not reliability, yet it's still sitting in people's medicine cabinets right now, next to bottles of recalled acetaminophen and contaminated antidepressants. And now, it's sprays, it's patches, it's medications like duloxetine that people depend on to get through their day, all found to contain carcinogens. It's not an isolated event, it's the natural outcome of an industry built on speed, secrecy, and profit. An industry that doesn't warn you, it waits until it's forced to issue a recall, and by then, the damage is done. Let's get real. If you or your child had used one of these products, and then got a cancer diagnosis 5 or 10 years later, would anyone tell you the truth? Would the pharmaceutical company admit they failed you, or would they bury the evidence, settle in court, and move on? We already know the answer, because that's what they've been doing for decades. And still, the system allows it. The recalls come only after widespread exposure. The inspections miss the contamination. The supply chains are outsourced, fragmented, and unreliable, and the regulatory agencies stretched thin, reactive instead of proactive, and often politically restrained. So what's left? You are. The only real defense you have is information and action, because these companies won't stop unless they're forced to, not by fines, not by headlines, but by consumers who refuse to be silent. So here's what you can do. Stay awake, stay angry, follow the recalls, dig into the label, ask your pharmacist questions they're not used to hearing, ask your doctor whether there are safer alternatives, because they do exist, but you have to ask.
Ask, and don't be fooled by branding. Just because a drug has been on the market for years doesn't mean it's safe. Tylenol's been on the shelves for generations, and yet lawsuits, toxicity risks, and contamination scandals keep coming. Familiarity does not equal safety. That's the lesson here. Blind trust is dangerous. The medications meant to help us have become potential threats when companies prioritize profit over protection. And that betrayal, that cold, calculated negligence, shouldn't just outrage you. It should mobilize you. It's time to make these companies terrified of hiding data, terrified of cutting corners, terrified of choosing profit margins over your life, because that's the only way things will change. No one else is going to fight this fight for you, not the CEOs, not the shareholders, and frankly, not even the agencies tasked with oversight, unless they know the public is watching, demanding answers, demanding accountability. So don't let this get buried, like all the scandals that came before it. Keep talking, keep asking, keep pushing, and keep protecting yourself, because you deserve better. Your family deserves better. If this video gave you the facts you needed, act on it. Like the video, share it, drop a comment below. If you or someone you know has been affected by these recalled products, your voice could wake someone up to a danger they didn't know they were facing. And if you want more hard-hitting truth, subscribe. This channel doesn't do fluff. We expose what others try to cover up, and we'll keep doing it as long as these companies keep putting profits over people. And one final reminder, before changing anything about your medications, always talk to your doctor or pharmacist. Be safe, be informed, and never let your guard down when it comes to what you put in your body.